Hey you guys, Keith here. Just wanted to share something with you. When I started my spiritual journey over a decade ago, I had absolutely no idea where to start. I looked everywhere, every culture. I just devoured every piece of literature that was put in front of me, just searching out of interest, out of desire, out of love of knowledge, out of just trying to get to the root of things, you know? And it was frustrating. It was really frustrating. A lot of the teachings, they were almost too extravagant, almost too fantastic. They were beautiful stories and they were wonderful to read and very interesting, but it was too much. Then all of a sudden, one day I stumbled upon the basis for this teaching, the Hermetic philosophy. And it was the first time, you guys, that I came across a text that included every single other text that I have ever read. Didn't matter if it was Buddhism or Christianity or any of the Abrahamic religions, really. Shamanism, even science. It included everything. And I thought to myself, Eureka, this is the gold mine of spiritual and esoteric teachings. I was ecstatic. This text, this philosophy, just handed down to me through times from ancient Egypt, if not prior to that, taught me how to manipulate my reality and myself in an almost scientific manner. No fairy tale stories, no parables, only when needed, of course. It was just a cut and dry, black and white, here is how the universe works. This is the mechanics of everything that you see in the external world, and more importantly, everything that you see happening on the internal world. It showed patterns. It showed how to tell the future by discerning the now. How the now creates everything, how it creates the past, how we are not defined by anything but our ideas, how we generate in our lives not by what we see as truth, but what we define as truth, giving us the power to believe what we can't see, which is, without going too far into the studies, the most important thing we as humans can do in our quest for the perfect design. Having the willpower, learning how to generate the willpower, to focus on something that isn't actually in the world yet, is the most powerful thing humans can do. And if you get nothing but this one concept from everything that I'm teaching you, I will be happy. And it's that everything originates in the mind. Nothing is real until it becomes real in the mind. And with that being said, we have to accept that the things we want to happen, that the things we believe to be truth, aren't going to be validated by the external world because we haven't created them yet. And that's the kicker. It hasn't been created yet because humans want to believe what we can see, but what we can see is just a result from what we believe. That being said, I'll introduce you to the 7 Hermetic principles that will teach you how to do these things in detail. We have the law of mentalism, the mental universe, which is akin to what I was just speaking on. Everything is, we are thoughts. Everything originates in the mind. 2, the law of correspondence, which says that as above, so below is how the Bible writes it out. The macrocosm, everything that's out there exists in the microcosm, exists here on the small level. We learn about the unknown using the known, because everything that extends from source, from that single point, is going to have source in it. You cannot have an effect that doesn't have a piece of the cause in it. So we are all one, therefore we all have a similar blueprints. We're all the same, but to varying degree. So we learn about the unknown by what we do know, because what we do know is going to be contained in the unknown. That's the law of correspondence. And then we have the law of vibration, which says everything is in movement, everything is vibrating, and that vibration releases a frequency. And everything in existence has a certain frequency. And different frequencies, different vibrations determine whether a thing is itself or something else. Thoughts, even matter, material, planets, emotions, everything has a vibratory frequency. And we use that to control the world, to control ourselves, to perform magic in almost the literal sense. It's the law of vibration. That's the third law. Fourth law is the law of polarity, which says everything that extends from source will have an opposite for a few different reasons. One of those reasons being you have to have an experience to be alive, basically. If there was always ever just one experience, we would still be in oneness, and we are a part of oneness. But right now we are under the illusion of separation given to us by our egos. So we have to have darkness if we're going to have light. We have to have hate if we're going to have love. We have to have courage if we're going to have fear. You can't get rid of either one without getting rid of them both. All extremes are the same. All paradoxes can be reconciled. The next law is the law of rhythm. The law of rhythms, it goes in tandem with the law of polarity, and it says, now that we have these two poles of everything, life will swing between those two extremes, and that is rhythm. We will always go from hot to cold, love to hate, courage to fear. What the alchemists do with this knowledge is they say, okay, the world is swinging back and forth between two poles. Most people identify with that swing and they become trapped. When the pendulum swings to sadness, they choose sadness and they claim, woe is me. When the pendulum swings back to happiness, they claim happiness and they say, hooray is me. But they are constantly trapped. They are being swung by life. Alchemists, mental transmutation, those who are in control of their lives, polarize themselves at a certain pole. They don't identify with anything. And when the swing goes back to the opposite side, they're not taken with it. A good way of seeing this is how gurus in meditation speak of not identifying with emotions that we have. Instead of saying, I am happy, I am experiencing happiness. Instead of saying, I am sad, I am experiencing sadness. There's a whole bunch of different techniques, and we'll get to that further when we actually talk about the law of rhythm. The next law after law of rhythm is the law of cause and effect. The law of cause and effect is simple. It just says that every effect has a cause, and every cause has an effect, kind of like karma. There's chance is just law to people without the knowledge of it. There's no such thing as chance. It's like life is like a spider web. You tug on one string and the whole web moves. A piece of web on this side might have no idea where the swing is coming from, but it's not chance. Things don't just happen for no reason. There's always a reason. Also, it says that everything that happens contains within it a piece of the cause. This is how we can determine, it's kind of like the law of correspondence. It's how we can determine where our lives are going to be, what our success is going to be like. If every action you take has within it success defined by you, then every effect, if done correctly, will be successful. We can determine our future simply by determining what we are doing now, simply because of cause and effect. And the last principle is the law of gender. And the law of gender is similar to polarity. There manifests a masculine and a feminine energy. Not man and woman. Man and woman are organic manifestations of the law of gender. It's just how gender shows up for the human species. But masculine and feminine are just energies. And they have different qualities to them. And they exist within everything. A man has both masculine and feminine, and we see that in his mind with the right brain and the left brain. One is logical, penetrating, it's the masculine side. One is creative, dreamlike, integrative, and that's the feminine side. So it exists, it shows itself in plants, it shows itself in ideas, it shows itself in emotions, it shows itself on this. Every plane has these masculine and feminine. And what we learn from that is a proper integration of the two breeds life. If you want to create something, you have to combine masculine and feminine in a healthy manner so that we can have proper function of whatever creation we're bringing about into the world. So those are the 7 laws of the Hermetic principle. And as we go over them in more detail, you'll see that it truly does, you guys, include everything that you have ever come across in all your spiritual studies. And if you haven't gone too deep in spirituality, you'll be able to use it as a blueprint for anything, because the way I see it is all the ritualistic magic from all the different cultures will utilize laws from the Hermetic philosophy. Will utilize laws from these 7 pillars of life, but they will use them in their own unique way to create brand new, unique things. See, the point of teaching you this isn't to, open a door into a brand new world. What I'm doing is I'm giving you a tool belt so that you can craft your own door, brand new, unique door that no one's ever seen before, that's going to take you into a world that no one's ever dreamt of before. We're creating worlds. I'm not giving you a world, I'm giving you a tool to build worlds. I just feel like most people are doing it haphazardly. We know a lot of these laws to be true because science tells us, sociology and psychology, geology, nature, we learn these laws from the natural world because they're built into the natural world. But we don't use them consciously most of the time. And now what we can do with these laws is we can use them consciously. So you can take them into whatever practice you want. Shamanism, paganism, you can take it into ritualistic magic. You can take it into doctors. Doctors can use these. Sociologists, psychiatrists can use these. You can use it with your children. You can use it with friends. You can use it for business. You can use it for everything. Because everything exists in existence, and everything in existence extends from oneness, extends from the all. Therefore, we all have to abide by those laws. We cannot break these laws, but we can understand them so that we can change our role in the game. Because right now, most people are pawns, or knights, or bishops, or kings and queens even. But even kings and queens have to abide by law. But what we are doing is we are rising above to the next plane. We are now the players of the game instead of the pieces. So now before we get into the first law, there are 3 things that I want to go over that we must accept when concerning this oneness, the all. I'm going to call it the all because the all to me has the least amount of baggage that comes along with it. Some people call it God, source. Star Wars calls it the Force. There's a bunch of different names, but I'll just use the all because Hermetic philosophy, the Kabbalion, uses the all, and it's just plain, simple, no religious connotations. It's just everything, the all. So we'll just use the all. 3 things we must accept about this. 1, it is in fact the all. It is everything. It is the one thing from which everything comes from. There cannot be nothing outside of it. It's just, otherwise it wouldn't be oneness. It wouldn't be the all. Number 2, we must accept that it is infinite in time and in space. There's nothing that comes after it, and there's nothing that comes before it. If there was, there would be things outside of the all, and multiple things, and the all would be the 2, or the 3, or the 4. And that's not the case. The all, the oneness source is everything. Timeless, it is limited by nothing. There's nothing in which to constrain the all, because there's nothing outside of it in which to provide restraining other than itself. 3, it is immutable, meaning it is subject to no change. It is exactly as it is now, as it ever has been in the past, and ever will be in the future. There's nothing in which to instigate change upon the all. There's nothing outside of it to come in and say, hey, I'm going to change you like this, I'm going to manipulate you like that. It cannot be changed. It is infinite, and the reason why this is so important to know, and how we know that, is because we see patterns in the world that happen. The golden ratio and the Fibonacci sequence, for example. There must be an unchanging level of existence in order for order to be maintained. If the all were to change, for example, itself, then the laws extending from it would change, and the Fibonacci sequence would crumble, for example. plants would deteriorate, the sun won't rise tomorrow, existence would just stop. But it keeps going, and the patterns keep replicating themselves, hopefully until the end of time. And because of that, we know that where they're coming from must be unchanging. So those are the three things. The all is the all. 2, it is infinite in time and space. And 3, it is unchanging. It is permanently fixed as it is for eternity. And that's it for the introduction of the 7 pillars, you guys. I'm really glad that I'm able to exponentiate your spiritual process, get all the jargon out of there, get all the fantastic stories and fantastic tales, and you know, not that those things are amazing, of course. All I'm saying is that let's build ourselves a really solid foundation, practical foundation, so that when we do get into these other more detailed areas of exploration, we have a brand new set of eyes to see them with, and a brand new set of skills to operate with, so that we can be that much more, have that much more impact when we decide to create our magic. Thanks, you guys. I'll see you in the next video. Take it easy.